We're back with the Kyle Brown podcast. Thank you for tuning in. We have Devin Pina with us, a very, very, very special guest that I've been super excited to chat with. And what's beautiful about today is we are in her space. So Devin, thank you for being on this channel today. I really wanted to make sure I had a discussion with you as I launched this podcast because I'm like really inspired by the work that you're doing. Devin is an entrepreneur, an architect, change maker within the Charlotte community. And I'm really excited to be able to tell her story, or have her tell her story with us today. And we're gonna just do that through a number of conversations. So Devin, what I would love for you to do, if you could, is just tell, the audience who you are, where you're from, and just some of your trades and skills that you have, and we're gonna jump right in.
Yeah, okay. I'm Devin. I'm from Fayetteville, North Carolina. I spent a long time in Texas. I lived in Austin, Texas for a while, developing my career. I quit my job when I was like kind of at the peak and decided to travel to West Africa and different European countries, and I used that as like a delayed gap year and just used that year to just kind of find out what my mission and purpose was. And I came back, I needed to get work, so I lived in Florida for a little bit, and then at the pandemic, I decided to come back home when I had the idea for my business Afrospace. So I'm a very new Charlotte transplant. I officially moved here in July. So
July 2021?
22 or 2022.
22. Oh,
22. We are literally in 23. It's crazy. It doesn't
We're in
make
2023.
sense.
So
it's literally 2023.
Oh my God, I thought you were here a little bit longer than that.
No, I mean technically because I was staying with a friend. I stayed at an Airbnb for a while that she hosted like travel nurses and stuff like that. So I was just trying to figure out where I could start Afrospace, where I could find a space. Yeah. So I was looking kind of here. I was looking in Fayetteville, even Raleigh, Durham, trying to find the best, place that I could even find. And it's like, it's so hard to get a property. So I was like, I'll get it wherever it pops. I'm going to make it happen wherever wherever it happens. I'm going to follow the flow.
And like Charlotte rent went up over the past 2 to 3 years. So I'm glad you were able to land here.
Yeah.
And you landing here, you've made a number of connections and done a number of things. Now that I know, very fast. So kudos to you.
Thank you. That means a lot because I also feel like I've been like super withdrawn, you know, and just not on it how I could be, and like taking advantage of every opportunity, every meetup, every this and that. I've been very much like trying to conserve my energy and in that space where I need to withdraw so I can create what needs to, and do the work that needs to.
Give yourself grace.
Yeah.
Give yourself grace. You have nothing but time.
Yeah.
And I think you've used that time very wisely. So you are the founder of Afrospace. Yeah. And Afrospace is a business, but it's also a space for people that look like us, specifically women, for them to be able to, one, focus on their mental health, focus on empowerment, focus on a space that they can just let loose and be vulnerable. That's my perspective. But I would love to know like your perspective on Afrospace, because one, Afrospace is a new creation, but you got a number of layers already to you that is like super extraordinary. I can tell you, the architect in you, I've just been super like trying to find out more about architecture and like getting into that field and like what it takes to be able to, create a career out of architecture and things like that. So I'm super interested in that. And Afrospace is kind of like a child that was birthed out of your creativity of architecture, just from my perspective.
No, 100%.
But I'd love to just talk to you more about like, one, Afrospace, architecture, your origins, because we're both North Carolina kids. Shout out to us. It ain't always a lot of us out here. So
East Carolina.
Holding
it down.
I'm gonna tell you now, they don't show us no love in North Carolina.
That's okay though.
Even though we live in Charlotte.
Like 252, I love 252 people.
People are the greatest. My mother went to Fayetteville State, so I've always had a connection to Fayetteville. So I'm really glad to talk to you because one, if I'm being honest, I don't know any women of color architects. And then I met you, and I was like, that is super cool. My best friend is actually an architect, but he's a guy.
Okay, I didn't know
but
that.
I never met a woman that was an architect. So
I'm the
super...
documented as the 375th in history, Black woman architect, like ever.
375?
But that's documented because there's, you know, who knows?
Yeah.
You know, who really knows?
Yeah,
but
who really knows?
I was when I got licensed, I was documented as the 375th Black woman to be an
Oh my
architect.
God,
like in his, it's crazy.
So
this has been architects since Stonehenge.
I think it's like I'm kind of torn because I'm very happy for that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, 375 is still a very small number.
Yeah.
Compared.
And I got licensed in 2016, and since then we're at 500. So it's we've almost doubled. So it's effort, you know, to get.
Yeah, it's definitely effort. It's definitely effort. And you attended North Carolina State.
I did.
And your degree was, I guess, architecture, or is it a larger name for
architecture?
Architecture. A Bachelor of Architecture. And I think that field is so important because when we think about where people stay, we think about where they live, when we think about what they feel, we think about when they go into a new city and you feel like when you're in like an old city, you know the history is there. And then you go to a newer city, you're like, oh, this is very modern and whatnot. That comes from something. It's not just like propped up and it's comes from history. It comes from someone that really wanted to make you feel that when you got into that city. So what made you want to go into the architecture field in general? Because, I mean, there's a lot of things to do at North Carolina State. I mean, there's engineering, textile engineering, there is business, there is journalism, communication.
Right.
And you went into architecture. So, like, what made you, like, you know what, I'm going to school to do architecture.
Right, and you know, I wanted to go HBCU, but the only in-state HBCU, or the only in-state colleges that had architecture was UNC Charlotte and North Carolina State University, because A&T's program at the time was not accredited. So I couldn't, you know, go there. But I'm glad I went to NC State because, and I know like people will be like, but I really don't think I would have graduated if I went to HBCU, because like I already could not focus. I can't imagine if my whole dorm was Black. Like I just. And then like we were like, I know, because we went to G-Ho, trust. Like I didn't go to our little whack, except for 1 year.
Don't say your stuff was whack, because I heard Pan Africa is pretty.
No, I'm not talking about Pan Africans though, but our homecoming. We did have Pharrell and Common 1 year.
Well, Jesus.
Yeah, that was dope, but I didn't get to go. So.
Okay, I ain't gonna ask
it's a whole nother story.
Okay,
but anyway, my counselor's son was in the architecture program at NC State. So she helped me set up my classes, take the right art classes, because our NC State's architecture school is within the College of Design. So they didn't want to see your like drafting work. They wanted to see art.
Yeah.
And also like examples of how you like creatively think. So like my portfolio was I had a picture.
You had one coming out of high school?
Yeah, but I had a picture of Michael Ealy that I drew. Michael, and I had a Care Bear made from pastels. They were good. Yeah. But like that's all. That was my experience and my context. And then I had a picture of like some jeans on a rack that I like figured. And I really tried to play that angle. I was like, well, we can't afford no dressers, so this. But I got it.
Hey, it worked though. It worked. So
it did work.
I'm guessing art was your first
I loved math. I loved art. And when I was in middle school, they kind of scouted me for a STEM program for high school. So with the new high school they were building Jack Britt. So I was supposed to go to NC 71st, and they rerouted our
good old 71st, good old Jack Britt, Terry was Sanford, all those, Wendover. I've been out that way. Hey, look, I have been out that way. Okay, so art, but you also said math.
Yeah, I've always been really good at math, and like I really. If I could be an artist, I would be an artist, but I just knew like throughout my life, my mom was always just struggling and to provide for us, and it just was always like that, and I was so like. Just like, I need to, get us good. So I was like, okay, what's a profession? Like, what's a real, I'm not going to be a doctor. I'm not going to be a lawyer. And then somehow I just found out about architects. So actually, since I was 7 years old, I always wanted to be an architect. And I never thought about nothing else, but I wasn't like super like scholarly kid. I just was like, oh, that's what I'll be. And I just didn't think about it again. So
you like the art side of architecture, but did you was there like a building or like a home or a space like in Fayetteville that you loved being in that you was like, ooh, I like
Yeah,
the
I
feng
feel
shui of
like
this space?
I feel like for me, my first introduction was through like home and like residential, and I really love residential architecture. And then even church, going to church, like just like buildings like that, because like I didn't grow up where, you know, in big cities or seeing like high rise, you know,
Yeah.
skyscrapers, high rise buildings, or anything like that. So that was more exposure when I got into college. But my first year, my professor was just like, this summer you need to just sit and look at buildings, look at like really look at the details, like where the windows meet the, you know, sills, and like with at the corners and at the, you know, at the lintels, like just really pay attention. And he told me, he's like, there's not a lot of people that look like you that get through this. And he was being honest, and I really appreciated that perspective, because my time at NC State was hell.
Really?
It was hell. I did not have a good experience at State, but I got through it. And yeah.
Cause I really love what you said. Like, I wanted to go to a HBCU, but you didn't go. And you know, in some occasions, if I'm being real, I went to a HBCU. I went to Winston-Salem State. Some people would be like, but why didn't you just go? But like, I'm very, very, very happy. I'm in the recruiting space, so I recruited all schools.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy that you chose what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
Because just because you go to a HBCU doesn't mean that it has what you want to do.
And I had to go in state for tuition wise for my FAFSA.
Yeah.
And then two, to keep it a buck, I wanted to go to where my grades, like the GPA I got was like the minimum to get in, because I wanted to see how far I could, because at the time that wasn't the requirement for the school, the other school. I'm not saying nothing. I'm just saying I wanted to see.
It's real.
You know, and that's how I judge what the hardest, because you want to get into the thing that's hardest to get into. So that's how I did it myself. So.
And you had a standard that you wanted for yourself going into the architecture field, and that's okay. And I think like there's always misconstrued, like, oh, you could have just went to HBCU and did that. Like, I love HBCUs. Like, I recruited HBCUs every single day. Like, that's my job. But
I'd rather have 20K student loans instead of 80K student loans.
You went for free?
I didn't go for free. Well, I did go. No, I did actually got full financial.
Oh, well, shout out to you.
And then the recession and all that, and my GPA dropped, so I had to end up paying for my 5th year. So it's separated. You do 4 years, you get a degree. I got my degree in environmental design and architecture, and then went and got my 5th year degree. So the 5th year I had to pay for.
Okay.
But my undergrad I didn't pay for.
We'll take 1 year. Yeah, we ain't tripping on that.
No, because I'm not gonna say we're not gonna do this divisive.
Yeah, no, but it's not.
Right,
but I think it's very important. Like, seriously, like all kids out there, not kids, students out there looking to go to a college, I think it's important. Like, I loved my HBCU experience, but sometimes you need to choose the college that has what you want to do.
Yeah, and for me, architecture, you under the books, I mean, you are in studio 100% of the time. So it's really, I didn't go to games. I think I went to 2 NC State football. I went to 1 football game, 1 basketball game. Yeah. The whole time I was there, I was always in studio, 100%. Yeah. So kind of, I won't say it didn't matter what school I went to, but like I was always in studio no matter what.
But they got to have a studio. Yeah. So I'm not saying that HBCUs don't have it, but if you were trying to go to school in North Carolina, the only programs was UNC Charlotte. Well, no.
UNC Charlotte and NC State. And the only reason I didn't apply to UNC Charlotte is because they had 2 separate applications. I was like, I'm not doing all that.
Because this hits home because I have a friend. He got his landscape architecture degree. And this is no shade at A&T. Actually, I really love A&T. But they didn't have the accreditation at one point. Yeah. But they also didn't have a specific like certification or like level of general like curriculum that would allow for you to get a number of jobs across a number of places. And I found this out because randomly, because I just be showing up places. I found this out because I randomly sat beside this guy at this Charlotte Business Alliance event, and he went to Tuskegee. And he went to Tuskegee, and he was the architect too. And he worked for Perkins and Will. And I was like, my best friend is an architect. He's in the field, but he's not at the level that he wants to be at. And he was like, oh, what school do you go to? And I was like, A&T. And he was like, I know why. And he was like, because there's a part in their curriculum where they're not taking students through a certain level of certification.
Well, the thing, yeah, so it's called NAAB. So it's like the National Accreditation Board of Architecture, whatever, or National Accreditation Architectural Board. So there's 13 HBCUs that I think it's 13 that have the accreditation. They're great programs like Morgan State, there's Tuskegee even, but A&T just doesn't have the certification. And it's only because, I mean, you have to have the staff, like you have to have the, you have to have resources. Yeah. So that's the only reason why it's not like getting there.
And so he told me that he was like, your friend, tell him to go back and like, if he got to take one or two, I don't know how it works specifically, but tell him to go back and get that accreditation because that's probably what's stunning his growth. Yeah. And so I was super interested then, and then he was like, I know for sure Tuskegee has it. He was like all in on Tuskegee. Shout out to him. But I thought that was an interesting fact because if you're choosing schools, like a school is, HBCUs are good, they're amazing, I love them to death, but you really need to choose what you want to do. Like, you know what I mean? Like if you want to,
that's any school across the board, because like NC State versus like, I don't know, like Wake Forest or something. I couldn't go to Wake Forest, and both those are PWI. Yeah. So it's just like, it's like any school across the board to me. Like it's like, what does that school specialize in? Like, what are they best known for? Like, A&T has a great business school. Fayetteville State has a great business school. Like, or nursing program. They have a really great nursing program at Fayetteville State. So, like, I think it's just like knowing what your specialty is, and then knowing what schools will support you the best there. Now, maybe academically it had a great program, but like at the time when I was in school, 2007 to 12. The environment was so bad, like toxic. It wasn't inclusive. I was the only Black female. There was one guy. But it was really tough like being socially accepted and things like that. It just wasn't a good experience for me.
So I guess I would say, how did you navigate that? Because there are a lot of people sitting in that same seat. Even if that was 2007 to 12.
It's true. No,
it's 2023, and there are a lot of students. I recruited, UNC Charlotte.
I'm only
Hill.
smiling because we had an alumni group meeting, and they're like asking for donations and stuff, and I was like,
not me. I was like, not today.
But like the current students, like thinking about them, and like for me, I donate through talent and time, right? Not my treasure, because I don't got a lot of that nowhere. But I would love to go talk to students, whoever, because like it's just a tough time in general in architecture for Black students and for Black professionals in architecture. It's just not an easy time. It's not an easy road. There's 1% of us in the whole field. Wow. So like it's just not an easy road.
1% of women of color?
No, everybody altogether. Black women and Black men. Like Black architects in general is 1%. It might be at 2% now, but last I checked it was 1%. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I said, I didn't know any. I didn't know any until I met you. And my best friend, he got his degree in landscape architecture, but he doesn't call himself an architect.
Right.
And that may have been because the school he went to.
Well, landscape architects, they can call themselves landscape architects, but they're not architects either. It's just different certifications and stuff. And my goal always was to become an architect, right? So like even after you graduate, you got to do, now it's different, it's less, but you had to do 5,600 hours of like apprenticeship.
5,600?
And take how many exams? 7 exams that are all like 3 hours long. It's like wild. It's like really intense.
Yeah, this building ain't breaking.
And they got like maybe 50% pass rate. It's like a crazy, and then you don't get paid the same as like an engineer or things, if somebody higher up in construction. So it's kind of, you just really got to love it. Yeah. That's my direction. It's like if anybody's interested in architecture, I feel like the only reason to really go into architecture, this is my personal opinion, is that like if you are just 100% so like art is my thing, but you want to do something professional and to like kind of hone your skills. Because I had somebody say, it was a mentor of it wasn't, I don't know if it was my mentor or if I just heard them say this, but they were like, if you get an architecture degree, you can become a graphic designer. But if you get a graphic design degree, you can't become an architect. So that was like, I was like, oh, okay, I'll run this through. Yeah. And then getting the license, like I got my own firm too. It's called ArchiDev LLC. I do different contract projects.
Hey, say that one more time.
It's called ArchiDev LLC. I do like mostly conceptual design, things like that. I have a stamp. I don't use it because it's liability that I don't need to worry about.
Yeah.
But again, I'm more enticed by the design aspect. So I will do pre-design, programming, conceptual design, things like that, 3D design, kind of like the predecessing things that you need, and then construction documents if you even get the funding to get there.
See, I love that because at Winston-Salem State, we didn't have anything near landscape or architecture, so I don't know a lot of those people. The more I've met more Tuskegee people just within my network, they've had like some architect degrees, like the guy I was telling you about, that works for Perkins and Will, but that's really good to hear. So the thing about architecture is you gotta have some real skills. Like, you know, like in my field, I got my degree in political science. They're like, soft skills is everything. You got some real skills, and there's some real tools and platforms that you know. What are those? I know of like AutoCAD, and I know, like you said, you can still be a graphic designer.
Yeah.
So like, what are those real hard skills that like,
and
no matter what, you need to know some of these to be able to be.
I mean, it would still be a learning curve to become a graphic. Let me not like say it's so easy to become a true graphic designer.
She got skills.
Well, no, because one of my really good friends, she has a degree. We went to state together. Ariana, but she's like a creative director at a tech firm, but she has like, I don't know if I could do that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I got the skills for that. But you could get, you know, with the background of having the design background, you could get there. But I mean, AutoCAD, Revit, SketchUp, Google SketchUp is like a 3D rendering program. There's all these other ones that kind of plug into it that you can use, but it's just anything to good old, you know, sketching, hand drawing.
Yeah. What's the up and coming architect? Oh, Adobe too?
Yeah.
Is there what platform in Adobe?
So before it was on a cloud, they had the Creative Suite, and that was just all like Photoshop, InDesign, Illustrator, and that's really for us to render, like continue our renderings with Photoshop, and then lay out our boards on Illustrator, and then create our portfolios in InDesign.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. See, I'm learning stuff. I learned InDesign in high school. I was in yearbook, so I was putting my little stuff together. So I think that's super dope, though. I always tell people, like, I love soft skills, but to make things come reality, sometimes you need a hard skill.
Yeah.
You need to be able to put pen to paper sometimes, draw out, design, be creative in those spaces.
Yeah, you just got me thinking about like the soft and hard skills for like transitioning into entrepreneurship, which like that just like, you just like had my mind going on like, okay, what hard skills have I mean, I guess the hard skills that I've learned is like more like finance things and learning just how to like create a break even or do a break even analysis or unit costs and just stuff like that never have I ever touched before. You know,
didn't have to take it.
That's never way over there. Which I feel like in a way, you know, some of those business skills, because so many architects are have their own practices. I think it would be helpful. But yeah, those are the skills that I definitely. And then even you learn leadership in architecture, but you do at least where I went before I left a traditional firm. You know, you lead, but you're very much in the model all the time. It's a different call from when you're like coordinating with different. I mean, you coordinate with engineers to like, but it's just a whole different. It's a whole different thing.
So you as like your LLC, your consulting firm, you would say?
Yeah, consulting firm.
You are using, what do you feel, more of your hard skill or your soft skill? Your hard skills.
Well, so my consulting firm that does architecture stuff, it's still the same. It's both. It's a combination because like you gotta make sure you understand, because I work with a lot of in the past I worked with a lot of like maybe people our age that's trying to create a concept that they need funding for, but they don't have it yet. So I have to think like, okay, maybe I could phase out this contract so I could do the concept work for them, and then I still, you know, we'll wait and then we'll do the construction documents. Or you could work with an architect eventually, but you'll already have this to give them, so it won't be as expensive in the future for you to work with them, because it's like you're still creating your dream. So it's almost like I was being an architect for entrepreneurs and meeting us where we at. And one guy, he was just like, thank you for taking me seriously. And I was just like, that's crazy to me that you would even say that. But I wonder how many architecture firms he went to and was like, oh, I really want this, but I don't have the money for this yet. And they were just like, we don't have the time for you.
Big, and they only wanted a certain level of customer. You got me thinking of stuff, because like I never knew, like I'm interested in spaces and stuff like that. I actually got my real estate license, but I don't know nothing about architecture. Like I know what a space is, a property, land, and all that stuff, but like actually building a space or having your own space and seeing how to create it and whatnot, I think that's super important, because there's a push and a pull. Like from a business mindset, you need to know the business of it, but then as an architect mindset, you need to know like the dimensions, you need to know the creativity, you need to know why it even should even
and what
exist.
would get you there to it's like you're trying to create you're trying to make stuff feasible. So it's like you take their ideas, it depends what type of project, but if they just have ideas, or like I had one client, he was so like, he wanted the moon and stars. Like I was just like, yo, like this is a lot of. I ain't
got a galaxy.
I'm like, this is a lot of program to fit in one space. Like he wanted this, he wanted that, but like he wanted it, and I was just like, okay, well, how do I manage this? How do I? And it's like I'm bringing in other skills. It's not just drawing. I'm like, okay, well, you're definitely gonna need a fire separation between this type of function and that one. So you need to have this wall to be rated and all this, and it's just like pulling from all the past experience. So it's like it's not only just this. It's skills in general that I learned from being in a kind of more structured corporate and small business type, small firm environment.
I was gonna ask, did your corporate experience help you in like being your own consultant now?
I think I think it's cumulative, but I would say I think working in a general contracting office is what made me the consultant, give me the better kind of skills for that, because they were really transparent about their business transactions. So you could look at their contracts, you could look at how much they was making. It was on the ground. And then even just through mentors through NOMA, which is a national organization of minority architects, mentors through there, sending them my proposal, getting feedback on it, etc.
Okay, gotcha.
Like how much should I charge for this? Like, stuff like that.
And at the largest firms, you're not seeing that compared to if you're at a general contract
it's
level.
Very like divided into studios. Like you work here, so like I was working on university projects, I was working on healthcare projects, like very much just in just doing the drafting.
Gotcha. Okay, I don't know as much about architecture. I'm interested in it. I don't know like the verbiage of it as much, and I'm fine with saying that, but I'm very interested into the field of it and what it means and how you can, create spaces for it. Which kind of leads to my point now, like we're in your space. We're in Afrospace. Here in Charlotte on the east side.
Shout out to Solange.
Shout out to Solange, because she is providing a lot of inspiration to all of us. But we're in your space now. And so now all that you've learned over all these years, it has led to something, a vision that you can put into fruition. But honestly, every time I've talked to you, it hasn't been about like a vision for you. It's been about a vision for what you wanted to put out for people to be able to experience. So talk to me about Afrospace in general.
And how I guess how I do connect that back to my own experiences, like, because even though I had all these experiences at these firms, they weren't positive experiences. Again, just like school, because you're in predominantly white male environments, and they can be very hostile. Navigating them can be difficult. You don't necessarily always just feel like you could just you have to wear a mask kind of, it's not, even when you decide, and then when you decide to just be like, you know what, I'm just going to be myself, it's almost like you get repercussions. Now, post 2020 social justice actions and things like that, it's rough out there. It's changed, but it's not, because I still am connected in my groups and stuff like that, and it's like it's still some of the same old stuff. And for me, I think when I first thought about Afrospace, I was just like, all right, when I was at the corporate firm, leaving there, what type of space would I want to enter into? Say I got a roommate, or I'm still living at home or something like that, or like I got a baby, or like I got a husband, and it's just like, where's the time that I can just have for myself and create that space for myself? But over the and with architecture, you design spaces around activities. It took me back to school because that's what we learned. It's like you design around habits and lifestyles and rituals. So like, for example, so I thought about, I was like, okay, well, the people that have most supported me throughout my life have been Black women. The people who are least supported in this country are Black women. Like even from statistical standpoints we have more like stress and things like that, and just like have environmental stressors that other people just don't intersect in the same way. Yeah, exactly. And I'm not saying nobody has things that stress them out, or especially, you know, Black men. But my own experience as being a Black woman, of course, that just made me kind of think about like, okay, how can we create a space? What's the ritual? What's the routine? So the first thing I thought about was hair. And this is coming from a pure design background. I was like, what if we had a space like doing hair used to be so communal? You know, we used to live in our grandmothers, great grandmothers used to like go to their neighborhood salons and stuff like that. And they maybe even bringing it all the way back to Africa, these braiding circles and stuff like that. So like, how can we make a modern experience out of that? But then, so that was the root of Afrospace. That's why it's called Afrospace. Literally, Afros in the space. So like,
Afros in the space.
It's literally like Afros in the space.
I hadn't even thought about the hair portion though.
Yeah, that's how it began. But that's why you had, because like that was, I started this. I had the idea for Afrospace in 2020. So it's been this going on what 2, 3? Wait, hold on, 20. What?
Kind of 3.
It's like 3 years. I gotta do the math.
But it's here though.
I know. I just said I was good at math, but simple math sometimes be stumping me. But yeah, so I got. I kind of lost my train of thought there.
No, you're good. I was saying like when I thought Afrospace, I just thought of Black people in a space. And but you just literally just changed.
That was the beginning. That's why if you go to this
Afro of the hair, and then being able to create a space for women.
That was the roots of it. And then I went through all these accelerator programs. I developed the business. I never was attached to anything. That was like my whole ethos is like, don't attach yourself too strong to anything because it's gonna change. And what is profitable is important because it means what's going to be sustainable, what's going to stay in the community for more than a year or 5 years. So like I started looking up, you know, statistics. I started looking up my market, my target audience. I started having conversations and doing customer discovery. And I was like, okay, well, I can create this as a space that you could also, you know, hang out. You could do this and that. It's like a club kind of thing. So that's where I got the mind of self-care club, because for me, like, turning tasks and like things that you feel like you have to do back into like kind of a ritual of like self-care is important. But then I'm like, this could also be a space where you work. This is a space where you can rest. You can do all of the things.
All inclusive.
And you know, we have, I think single Black women's median net worth is $1,700. $1,700. And then as married is $30,000. So like, we don't have the economy of wealth, but everyone has the economy of time. So I thought about this space as creating a space where you could consolidate your time in the best way. So like maybe we have a member who has this suite over here booked and she does massages. So if you're a member, you could book a massage with her in the same space where you just did your work, in the same space where you just took out your braids, you know? It's a very protective kind of space for you to just kind of do everything like a home away from home type of vibe. And it's so hard to articulate. I'm still kind of getting there, but like the description I just came up with like 2 days ago, like, cause I've changed this description. So I don't even want to talk. I'll be sitting on the floor with like papers surrounding me. And then I'm like, what am I doing? Like, God, like, but like it came and I was like, okay, Afrospace is a self-care club for nurturing your passions and building healthy habits that grow wild dreams.
Cause you don't even have to say like business, like nurturing your business.
Yeah.
It's just like
your passion is
I want to be vulnerable for a moment. I can come in this space and do me.
Yeah, and you're not gonna be judged. Like if you're in a co-working space not working, or you're like mixing up your products, people are gonna be looking at you like, what are you doing here? You know, I don't want to have this like this kind of weight of you need to be this pressure
when I'm here, I gotta be.
You gotta look like you're, you know, doing your thing. Not that phones look like this no more, but like, you know.
A little bit. But
so
I think that's so good because like not everybody's gonna be like your business entrepreneur. Like not everybody's gonna like be trying to crunch numbers on a day to day. But there's so many women definitely women of color that have a number of passions and things going on that they just don't have a space for. Like it's typically at their house or around a certain group of friends, but to create a space for them where they can actually.
And it's an equitable space. Like it's more affordable than a co-working space.
Yeah.
You can have add-ons if you need extra space. Like it's just, I tried to put it in a model, and it's like a shared economy. So like if you support a business that's here, you can get that service at a discount, and that person will get their space at a discount if they support our members. So it's like a very like circular kind of like circulating, I should say, type of economy that I'm trying to
that's where things are going. Shared economy is definitely where things are going. I think about Uber. I think about Airbnb. I think about Turo. So what you're doing,
Airbnb is a perfect example, and Turo too, perfect example of that.
But for what you're doing, you want to make sure that we have our space. Well,
and that's
we have our space to be able to, share that economy with each other. And it's not about like trying to like knock the bottom line off revenue. It's about like letting your hair. It's like a mix between mental wellness and also like having your passions and chasing that with a group of people that feel the same way about they do about their passions.
Yeah, and it's important for me to be like, I don't want that person to. I don't want anybody to like. They're getting a discount service, but then they get discount space.
Yeah.
So it's like everybody wins. You know what I'm saying? Like
group economics.
It's group economics. So it's like, you might be paying $80 to get your lashes done, and you add that onto your membership monthly, right? Because that's something you do, or a massage if that's something you do normally, or something you want to get into. That supports your self-care. So it's like a space that supports your self-care and like kind of an integrated system. So you might get that done. Outside, it might be $120. Outside a massage might be $150. Who knows? So you're coming in at like 2/3 of what the cost would be. And then that person, originally their suite might have been, X amount to rent a month, and now it just went down every time that they take a member as a client.
Got you. It's like one's definitely shared economy.
Yeah.
But it also allows people to not feel the super pressure of like business. Like I just gotta step out and just like run people through my business. Like I can come here and I can share that with other like-minded people who will support me in return. I love that idea.
And keep your clients' book list filled, because you got a whole. It's gonna be all these people here.
Like, they got their lashes, but I might do massages. But you might do real estate.
Right.
But this is a space that we all can come in and share that economy with each other. I think that's super important. I really do, because a lot of the times in our culture, in our backgrounds, we sometimes, it's not that we don't want to support each other. We don't we kind of run our own races. And like, if that black firm is in real estate, are they going to really support the other black firm in real estate? But this is a space where you can be with other people who are going to get it. And the goal is for us to share those like-minded clients, those like-minded individuals, and still be ourselves while we're in it with no pressure. Like we ain't gotta be someone else while we're in the
Exactly.
space.
I wanted to be like a come as you are. Like you don't gotta be all dressed to the nines. And there's spaces that are like that, and there's times in your life you wanna get out there and get cute, whatever. But if you need to come here in your sweats, and work on your little product or whatever, not your little product, but you know what I'm saying? So if a sample is a little physically, I'm not trying to diminish, but I'm just saying, like, you know what I mean? This is a space where there's a maker's lab. So if you're a product maker, if you make candles, if you make hair products, skin products, that's an add-on to your membership. You have access to space. You can have storage, just making your life a lot easier. You don't gotta move your dinner around that you just made for you and your toddler, or just you and yourself or whatever. And start working on your stuff. It's just more inspiration and incentive, because you're coming to a clean slate. It's a space that inspires you to work, but also invites you to rest. Like I want to get a little hammock in here. Like I want it to be I don't know what y'all gonna say. This is building a little old. I don't know.
Well, look,
it might be a freestanding.
That's the architect in you, because I don't know how you're gonna do it. But
I don't know about the insurance.
Something can happen. But it's very relaxing. Like coming in. And
I don't even got nothing in here yet. That's so dope to hear that. Like for real.
It's good. It's good.
It's
like,
getting there.
I think everything's an evolution. So you're definitely good, and I think your vision, but also what you've already created for it, is in a very good space. I'm just glad that we're at a point now because honestly, probably 10 to 15 years ago, this idea would have been rejected because there weren't like the Ubers, the Turos, and the Airbnbs who would kind of show people that you can break the rules and do that.
But I like that stuff that's not what I got my investment money with, that idea. That developed after, and I would not have had the space and time to develop that had I not got the investment money. So it's like you don't have to have the idea 100% finished.
Gotcha.
There just has to be a potential for buy-in and scale, and that's what makes this a startup versus just a small business. In my mind, I look at this space, this flagship location, this small business as the MVP.
Space,
it's our prototype, it's our most viable product. I'm literally trying to create the viability, understand the viability of what this space could be, and then use this as an example for investment.
Yeah. Oh, you got a space, so the sky's the limit. Like myself, I can think of 5 different ways you can use this space to empower people that look.
And I want people to inform me of how best to use it, because I have my ideas, but again, I'm not precious about the ideas. I'm not locked in on this is what it needs to be. It's literally going to be like through understanding what people want is going to, and like, okay, the majority of the people need this space for an office suite. I thought it was going to be a self-care suite, where practice, but now it's more office people that they need. And I was like, I didn't know that.
You hadn't even thought about that.
And I'm okay with it pivoting. Like I've been like that since day one.
Yeah. So there's one person that I did a ton of research on. And one of the things that she said about being a Black woman architect and architects in general, her name is Gabrielle Bullock.
Yeah. That's my girl.
That's your girl.
Let me stop. She's a grown woman, but she's my mentor.
But it's your girl.
But that's my girl.
But that's your girl.
She really is. She's amazing.
Yeah. And I really was inspired by her when I was learning about her and the stuff that she's doing within the California area.
Yeah.
And just where she's even gone to even get to that point. What was really interesting about her is she's an architect, but she's also head of global diversity and inclusion. Yeah. So that's 2 hats. Like you can't let that go by. That like you can be an architect, but you still got to manage global diversity and inclusion. So how do I, make this space easier and more equitable for people to get into? One of the things that she said was that as an architect, you need to be able to learn and listen to be able to make your space or whatever you're doing formidable for the people that will be enjoying it. You just said that, like you was like, I'm gonna let this transform. Like I got this idea of what I thought this room could be and what those things could be, but I'm not stuck on it. I'm like, I'm gonna allow the people to experience it and let it transform, and I'm willing to make things, shape themselves through that experience. So how is that listening and learning experience helping you with creating Afrospace, like from where you went when you started with it versus where you are now? How is that listening and learning from the people that you've been engaging?
Yeah, so it's like constant evolution, and I've been, able to participate in these accelerator programs, and that really, they emphasize the customer discovery process, which it goes in line with that, because it's like they want you to understand what people's values are, or not they want you, but in the process, you understand for your potential, end user, you want to know what their values are, what drives them, what their needs are, and how those associate. So so at first I was going into it being like, hey, I got this concept. This is going to be a space you can come into. You could do da-da-da-da. And they're like, oh my God, it's so crazy. That's cool. I would love to support. But that
probably was going to work.
And
it probably was.
But it's like,
it's you.
It's biased. It's a biased way to introduce that. So I went from that to figuring out, and I had papers and papers of trying to find out what the right questions were. So I still am doing it, and it has to be a constant process.
Evolution of it,
so I'm asking, like, how do you feel when you self-care? Do you feel, or like when you take me time? I said, how do you feel when you take me time? Do you ever feel guilty, or do you feel like you deserve it? And a lot of people would be like, oh, I deserve it. And a lot of people would be like, oh man, I kind of feel both. Like I feel really guilty, but then and I'm like, well, why? And I kept hearing, because I feel like I could always be working on my business. And I feel like that's just like a constant pressure. I feel that all the time. Like if I'm napping, I'll be waking up and I'm like, I slept longer than I was supposed to. I should have been did this. Like even today, like before this, I'm like getting ready. I'm like, I meant to put an hour in on this thing before I got set. Like, you know, it's just
I'm
like,
the same way, though.
it's constant and it's like, it's too much. So I feel like,
it's like you're in a race almost.
Yeah, and it's increments. It's like compound interest on how you're going to get there. Habits are so important. So that's the other part of the message, other than building healthy habits. And like, to me, it's like we all have high goals to do that. And I don't know if everybody was raised with just the ability to do that. Or there's a lot of people who weren't, but I was one of the people who was not. Like, I just don't have that inherent. I tend to indulge. I tend to make excuses for myself. So I have to incentivize doing things that I know are good for me, whether it's self-care, even self-care stuff, but productivity stuff, like that. So I want to create this system that, you know, supports your growth through those things. So it's incentivized, like it's gamified in order for you to accomplish your self-care goals and accomplish your productivity goals, and it's in a community, so you don't feel like you're doing it alone.
I'm really glad, like, you talking to me about, like, your origin, your foundation, and, like, how you really took time to make sure you wanted to know where you were going with Afrospace. But what I really would love to know is, like, what is that process like? And, like, what are some of those tactical steps you had to take to, you know, make this idea into reality? Because I've had a million ideas.
Right.
They don't always come into fruition.
Right.
So like, but we're here. Like, and that's the most beautiful thing. I've done some podcasts. I just started, but I've done a few, and I haven't been in anyone's space until now. So we're in Afrospace. So could you talk to me about like some of those steps you took to make this a reality?
Yeah, definitely. So I was, this is when I got back from my world traveling. I got a job in Texas, and I felt like I needed to give back in a way. And I wasn't like a part of a church or anything like that, or a volunteer group. So I was like, well, I can give back my time. And I created something called ArchiDev Incubators. So basically, ArchiDev Incubators was free to the people. It was a time where you could structure your ideas. I would get on the calls, like it's an architect-led, session basically. And I had done some over the summer with my friend Corey with Core Agency, which is like a creative agency based out of Raleigh. But yeah, so I was working with a couple, and they were trying to build a church actually. So I had them do an exercise with like sticky notes, like a brainstorming exercise. So, but she was a hairstylist. So I think it's the combination of serving and just being creative that gave me this idea. I was just like, oh, it would be dope if you created something that was like a bar for your hair where you could like, build all the products, and then like, like kind of like a Subway where you could like put all these products together and
Chipotle.
create Chipotle for your own, for your own hair products. And then you could do them in the space, and it could be like a place to gather. And that was literally like the first idea for Aspen. I was like, that's pretty cool. So then January 2020 came. I actually got let go from my job on my Founders Day on January 13th.
Now they know they should.
They didn't know that. They were white.
No, they know.
It was messed up. I still went to a Founders Day celebration. Shout out to my Neo Jasmine. Thank you.
But guess what? You had them.
It was a lot.
But you know what? Even though that happened, it's so beautiful that you had a group to go to.
Yeah.
Even on that Founders Day. That is beautiful.
That's a great
I do want to point that out.
And connection. And I remember
when
being
the world was
that.
against you, or your current world, you had that group, and I love
that's
it.
right, and
I love
and creating like that's right. It's like the sisterhood there. That I ended up being. I met a few people. That I was in Florida. I just had moved there for the job, so I didn't really know that many people.
So you was new,
pretty new. So it worked out, and the job was so toxic, bro. Like the job. I mean, and I literally signed something that says we left on amicable terms. So that was it. And
Really?
because it was really bad. Like they told me
The architecture interesting a little
it was
different.
listen, it was actually in construction. I was a building envelope consultant, but like my coworker was saying things like, oh, well, black people from low income, they're like horses with blinders on. I'm like, let's not call black people horses.
Jesus.
Also, like, and I had to be in the car with him for 2 hours. He told me I wasn't a woman, I was a female because I didn't have kids. Like, it was like the crazy.
You know, I commend you for even being able to deal with that. Like that
he was driving, so I couldn't. It was my safety.
But look, that no facts.
But no, and then also like when we're in positions, it's just like, oh, I just gotta hold on a little longer. I gotta save up X amount. Like I gotta hold on. Like I felt like I didn't have no options. So them letting me go was freedom, to be honest. Because like, yeah, I switched into mode like, okay, I gotta get a job. Let me apply for these jobs, which I was doing. But bam, there go the pandemic, right? Like March. So before that, I like in February 2020. I got a notification that I was selected to speak at the Black Symposium conference, Black Geography Symposium at Berkeley. And I'm like, this is Berkeley. Like,
you apply?
I applied. I finessed the hell because, like, mind you, I got a bachelor's, right? These are people that are like PhD, but I created a thesis based on my time in Cape Verde because I called it Living Monuments, the Architecture of Post-Independence. So essentially it's literally like here where we have all these Confederate statues. So there they have these colonial statues, but they don't have a lot of like statues that and like monuments that represent the current culture.
And you're Cape Verdean.
I'm Cape Verdean.
You took a trip to Cape Verde to be able to...
I wanted to learn. I quit my job to move there so that I could see the people so that my dreams could come a little closer. Because I always one day wanted to build there, wanted to build in Fayetteville, wanted to build in Cape Verde. And I had never been to Cape Verde. My family's like I'm like third generation Cape Verde on my mom and my dad's side. So I didn't know the language. We only cooked the food, that's it. I didn't know nothing, no music, nothing. So
I heard the food is good.
Food is good. Well, it's very good. Mutasab. And I learned Creole. Like enough.
Don't say that now. Well,
enough. No, listen. So I learned enough to speak, to get around. Anyway, long story short, so where was I even going with that? So I came back. I talked about that. I created this whole thing because I wanted to go to actually MIT for urban studies. So I was kind of doing some pre-work in my mind. I was like, that's what this is. And to be able to work and build something for people, you have to know the people. That goes back into talking about people's experiences. And so I wanted to know, and I can't do that without knowing the language. So that was my mindset. So I wrote about it. I created this like thesis and I just submitted it to this thing. And then they were like, come speak. And I was like, what? Like, it was
Berkeley?
crazy. UC Berkeley, and outside of Oakland in Berkeley, California. I was like, oh my God, the Berkeley like wants to. So I put it in my computer, like, you know, I was in Tampa at the time, Tampa to Oakland, and I just saw the map first versus flights, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna drive. I just got like convicted. I was like, oh, I'm about to drive. And it was like the most beautiful. I was like, America is.
So flight didn't cross.
Flight didn't even. I was just like, I gotta pay for this flight. I ain't got no job. And I was just like, it might be cheaper to drive, but it probably was not cheaper to drive in the long like. But I just am a networking person. So like I had people almost everywhere I went to stay with. I was good to go. But it was incredible. But around that same time in February 2020, I was watching a program, it was Black History Month, watching a program on PBS. It was a documentary about Black enterprise throughout America's history. So they started with talking about like Reconstruction and like what happened in Tulsa and like just all the way up until current time. So by the end of the documentary, they talking about current times. Mind you, I'm just like kind of play about the idea about Afrospace. At the time I called it like routine, but they were like root, like ROOT. But there was already like a vitamin.
You're creative. I ain't cut you off, but that's creative.
Because at the time, you know.
Afrospace, I was thinking black people, you was like fro. You was like routine, it was like, I was thinking routine, you was like roots. Okay. But
roots and the hair roots. It was like that, but there was already a vitamin company called that. But anyway, so I was like, okay, name pending. So anyway, at the end of the documentary, it had these investors. They was like, okay, these are the big names in investments that are Black Americans. So they had oh my gosh, I can't even remember, but they had Backstage Capital with Arlen Hamilton. They had the one with John Henry, I can't remember his name, Harlem Capital. Yeah, they had a few other ones. I think like the grandson of the guy who founded the Tulsa Tulsa area, Black Wall Street. He has an investment company. So anyway, I wrote down all these names. So
these are in the credits?
No, like at the end of the documentary, they kind of like talk about them and they show some footage and stuff like that. So as it was going, I was like, and I'm working on I was like, wait a minute now.
That's where the info is.
That's where the info is. So I just wrote it down. And then I had a mentor through Noma tell me about a book a while ago, and I was getting ready to leave my apartment, like pack up. So I'm like, I found this sticky note, and it said Blue Ocean Strategy. It was a book that he recommended to me mad long ago before I even had this idea, and I just like Googled it. I found a copy online. It's in the Harvard Business School. I know the Blue Ocean Strategy. And I like looked at, and I started. It just opened my mind to like value innovation, about how you create something that is, it's valuable, but it's like there's a perfect storm of it being. I'm gonna give an example because I'll explain it way better. Yeah. So for example, you got Cirque du Soleil, right? So before Cirque du Soleil, you just had the regular circus, and then you had the theater. Totally different crowds, right? So the theater, the circus was like going down, and they tried to decrease prices. It made them go down even more, but nobody was going to circus no more. So, but the theater, that's like a high class crowd. They spend more. So this Cirque du Soleil is bringing you like this kind of elevated circus experience. So it captures both audience. Action. Exactly, it brings art into it, and it's cheaper than a theater ticket. Yeah. So it's like bringing those together, and that's where they found the innovation. So it has like several examples like that in the book. So that's what just had me keep kind of evolving the model for Afrospace into what it is now.
So you had to get in your business bag a little bit, just a little business strategy.
Absolutely.
Bag. I'm gonna be honest, I just learned about Blue Ocean Strategy 2 weeks ago.
That's crazy. I literally just got it from the library. The next book, which is called Blue Ocean something. It's like their next generation of the book. Yeah.
Gotta get to that. So that's super dope. That's really dope because you just got exposed to something and it just transformed your mind to think about.
And mind you, I never even finished the book. Like low key, like I went to public school. I didn't get nothing diagnosed, right? But I'm pretty sure I'm ADD, and I'm pretty sure I have dyslexia.
Might be too.
I'm not. Hey, what's up, neurodivergence? Like I got it. I just know, and it's not like how you see dyslexia on like TV, where it's like you moving words around. It's not like that for me. It's like just a little bit of transposition. It's just hard for me to read sometimes. Right. So actually, the library app is called Libby. And you can, if you have a library card, you can download it and listen to anything for free, and check it out because they have book licenses. So I use that, and you can put a dyslexia font on it, so it's easier for you to read. If you, So anyway, I have my workarounds.
Did that help?
Absolutely, absolutely. I just did this with the new version of the book. Yeah, and I was just like, let me find out. I'm about to have a YouTube where I'm reading these books to audio books for people. But anyway, so in February I found that out. I looked up all of the investors. One was Arlen Hamilton. She's a female queer investor, and she has this firm called Backstage Capital. So I looked her up. She had all this online stuff. They were starting a cohort to do like an Accelerator program. So I applied to the program, and in the meantime, I'm looking through who's already in the portfolio, and I see this guy, Jonah. I think his name is Jonah. I'm so bad with names. Charge my heart. Charge my head, not my heart. Charge my mind. Yeah, I'm really bad with names. Joa. And he's a friend of mine's friend, like a good, when not from my Austin days. So I was like, oh shoot. So I hit up I was like, hey, like, hi. Like I hadn't talked to him forever. Like, could you give me Joa's email? Yeah.
I need to know.
Yeah, I need to know. Like, give me the D. So I kind of connected with him. It really wasn't. I mean, it just didn't work out. So like I thought I was like, oh, he about to be the connect. He wasn't the connect, and that was okay. I was like, it is what it is. So
but you reached out though.
I reached out, and I feel like it's that cumulative effort. Nothing goes to waste. You putting all that into it, something's gonna give, something's gonna pop. That's just how it is. Yeah. So that was kind of a part that I kind of rhymed a little bit.
Yeah, it was.
I freestyle a little bit. I do freestyle a little bit.
In my mind, I thought you were gonna say no to me to do the podcast. But hey, you got to give a
You
shot.
thought I was gonna say no?
Man, you just never know.
That's crazy.
You just never know.
No, because I so sympathize, so sympathize.
But I'm gonna shoot my shot. So
I so sympathize, empathize, whatever, with people who are starting out, because I'm starting now, and you already like, I don't know, I met T, like y'all are great people, and I was like, I gotta connect, like this is awesome. You're doing something, a project, you're starting it, I gotta support. And I feel like so many people are like, you gotta show them before, like they gotta see a little something before they bite, and that's okay. they don't want to sit with you in the gym,
and that's okay though.
But that's okay though, and it's like sometimes they'll start.
Get in your feelings.
You can't get in your feelings, and it's like
grinding.
and you can't be resentful if they do come later. It's just like, you know what? It was time. It's the timing. They ain't got nothing to do with me.
That's another argument, but just run
for
your
what
race.
And for why? Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm just like, if you don't want it, that's okay. Like, because even with Afrospace, like, so you know how many people shade Afro? Like, it's not even funny.
Didn't see what you saw.
Even till this day, it doesn't matter, because it's just like, y'all don't see it yet, and that's okay. Like, you really have to be okay in your soul with that. Like, to just be like, that's okay, and not with the resentful energy of being like, wait, you don't believe me, just watch. Like, you know, back then they wouldn't know me. Now I'm hot. They all.
Watch. Yeah.
You can't even. You got to really just do it from a pure space, and trust that the right people will come at the right time, and God is preparing a way. You know, like it's happening. It's like you ain't got to do too much in that arena. So back to Arlen. She had a course out. They canceled it was an in-person accelerator. They canceled it because of the pandemic. This is March 2020. So I'm already driving out there. I'm like waiting for Joe to hit me up so I was like, maybe I can have a lunch meeting with her, and I'll tell her. I'm like, that's how I drive.
Waiting for him to hit you back.
I'm just like going, and I was already speaking at Berkeley, so I was like, Berkeley's close to Oakland. Like, we gonna make it happen. Something's gonna happen. And mind you, on all the breaks, I took 5 weeks to drive. So on the breaks, I'm like working on it. I'm learning what a pitch deck is. So I already started to frame Afrospace like a startup, not a small business, because there was a roadmap. With startups, there's a roadmap. You look it up online, it's there. So when I was doing my research,
there's a difference.
There's a difference. So like I think I've already said that I'm putting Afrospace it starts as a small business, it's a flagship, but I'm creating it as a scalable model. So I'm building so much of the framework with that in mind.
And not to cut you, like, small businesses, this is what we're going to do. A startup is we're willing to transform throughout the journey.
I think small businesses can transform as well. I think my perspective on what the difference between, and I think your boy Desmond from Battery Exchange said this at the Propel conference. And it's in the startup world, it's a scalable idea, meaning like you can make millions off of it.
MVP, minimal viable product.
Right. Yeah. So to me, that's how I'm structuring this, and that's how I'm gonna display that to potential investors. But it also is a tech integrated space, so it's a tech enabled startup. It's like a physical space, but I'm trying to create these automations, these technology, just integrations that can create this into like a new normal for the new future of work, a new way of work, a new way of rest, a new way of just total self, taking care of yourself. Because I feel like how we look at self-care, it's like commodified, or like in moments, it's almost like we work up to deserve it, or it's like we're burnt out, so we have to do it. Yeah. And I feel like you're just caring for yourself. That's all it is.
And the pandemic threw that out. Like, we need to create a new way of work. Like, people are stressed, they're tired, some of them don't like their life in certain areas, and that's not good. We've seen a number of suicide rates, we've seen a number of mental health rates rise at a level where people are experiencing anxiety, depression at a high level. And it's because this program level of what work should look like never changed. So
and just even the support, it's such a scary journey, and I think just being Black in America is just hard to do, and let alone make some money and support yourself and your whatever family you have. To my God, it's like, because I have, right when you said suicide rates, like I know 2 Black women that have committed suicide since the pandemic started. One was my mom's friend, and one was my high school friend. And the high school friend, because I first created my first step, and this goes back to what did I do with Afrospace? I created an online community. I created a Facebook group. We have like almost 500 people in that Facebook group. And it was during the pandemic. So we were doing Sundays at Afrospace virtual. We were like talking, doing our hair. We were talking about mental health stuff. We were talking about, it was like a really
This
dope.
is before the physical?
This is
Like
before
what
the
you thought of?
physical. Yeah, this is not, well, I had the idea for the physical, but I had a colleague or a connection tell me like, this is like, you need to create a Facebook group. And I was like, all right. And granted, this is before I even lived in Charlotte.
Yeah.
So it's people from across the America, and it's friends of friends of friends. So a lot of them are in North Carolina, Texas, Florida, like just, and then beyond from people who know people. And then a lot of people I know through Noma. So anyway, we did that. And she was at every one. We would watch a movie. We would do the little, you know, when they start doing the streaming of the movies together, like every single one. Like she was a
community.
big, but outside of that little bubble, it's like life is really hard. Like life is just hard.
Yes.
So it's like if I could create a space like that can just be, it can almost substitute for somebody who doesn't have a super strong support system. And going deeper, I feel like maybe that might be a reason why Afrospace, I'm driven, because I personally don't have like a crazy strong natural support system. So I created mine differently.
A line, yeah.
And I think that was my motivation.
Honestly, like, just having like a lineup of board of directors of people you could just ding, 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 call. We just don't have that.
We don't have that. We don't have that from
it.
right. And even from a personal standpoint of a support system of like emotional support and like just why you just trying to live life. Like when life is life and like not everybody got somebody they can just call or they have friends are in different areas of life and like it's just natural for that to be a thing. So if I could just create a space where maybe you make some friendships here, but maybe you just have this, maybe it's a comfort. This space is just a comfort to you that you could come here and you know you'll see somebody else here coming here too for a similar reason. You don't even necessarily got to interact with them like that, you know?
Yeah.
I'm just hoping that because like you got to get outside the house sometimes. Like you just got to.
You do.
You go crazy.
And I think people are actually reaching for that more post-pandemic. It's like, how do I get out the house? But also when I get out the house, how do I make sure it's valuable time that I'm like giving up to people that I really want to be around? Because I really think about that now. It's like, I could be out of the house. I could be a number of places, you know, like, but I want to make sure that the places I go to are adding value back to me. And like, it's not like it doesn't even have to be reciprocal. Like, you know, I got to be here and I can, you know, be here and give it back to them or they got to give it back to me.
Yeah.
I just want to be comfortable in that space where I feel value because time is really ticking. And then the older you get, you start realizing how important time is. So I'm glad that you are like, you're in a space that people haven't created concepts for, like what work should look like post-pandemic or what work should be. It's typically this 9-to-5 thing that you gotta fit a certain mode, be a certain mode, and you get off and now you can live your life.
Yeah, and now I think because of the pandemic, it's like, you know, remote work has transformed the way we live and work. Like people are creating spaces in their homes for a workspace. They might transform like a dining room and they need extra space to work to do. But not everybody has a home. Not everybody has a home that is clean all the time because of mental health reasons or whatever reasons. Not everybody has a space that's just their own. Like this is a space that can be part of your own. Like, you know, part of it's an extension. Like my apartment is probably like, because I think here is like 1,900 square feet. Let's say 1,800. So my apartment is 600 square feet. So I got a third of the size of the space.
But how you scale that up? You know what I mean? You're in the 1,800, 1,900 square feet space. Like, how does that become a real thing? Like, we're here.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
it's
like.
Wild to me. It's wild to me. And sometimes
I
feel like I'm always in the mode that sometimes I just got to sit back and be like, dang.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let me go back to your question about how I got the investor and then how we got the space.
Yeah.
So the investor, I saw that she had a course. This is after fast forward past I was Arlen. Yep. So past me coming back to Florida at the time. So I saw she had a course and I didn't get to meet with her and have that coffee. So and they canceled the thing. So I was like, oh Lord, what am I gonna do? I did try. So I asked her, I said, I just DM her, and I was just like, I think I was just in a desperate moment, and I was like, I'm doing everything I can, and this is my business, like it's gonna be this, and I'm trying to learn, and I feel like I'm at like an end, like I was like, today I'm learning about unit economics, and yesterday I learned about this, like I'm just doing what I can. I let her know I am on it, and she was just like, you should, and she replied. And she was, and mind you, like now, like granted, it might have been like a perfect storm. This is 2020. People ain't doing too much at the time. This is the height of the pandemic. I'm at home right now. Sis is busy. Sis is booked and busy. Like she homies with Mark Cuban. She was been on the cover of Forbes mag. She's like the first like entertainer athlete to be on the cover of Forbes as like Black businesswoman. I think like so she like
there.
So yeah. So she sent me her course. And I saw that it had a $300 course, and then it was $900 to have 2 one-on-one sessions with her. I said, Jesus.
That's why that JD dinner, 500,000 or.
I seen that meme or whatever. It's like, dude, which one do you do?
Dinner,
and I was saying, oh Lord. So like, yeah, I had to come.
Choose, yeah.
Woo, that was a hard decision. But what I did, I saw they took PayPal credit, which you can pay off in 6 months. I said, shoot, okay, I will pay this off in 6 months. So that's what I did when I had great credit at the time. I've been through a lot. It's getting there. It's getting back. Thank God.
Credit is a
the pandemic did me in, bro. But the fact that even makes it more solidified that we're in this space is because and the fact that anyway, I'm sorry. Let me go.
Nah, you good.
So yeah, so I DM'd her. I ended up doing the 900. I had the one-on-one with her. I did the course. I had the one-on-one with her. And the crazy part about the one-on-one, I was trying to prepare for it, and I saw like a smaller investor who was doing this thing, like a group type of thing where you did pitches and you would get like $1,000 the winner. So I reached out to her because she was a friend of a friend. And I was like, hey, how can I prepare for this meeting? She's like, oh, you got a meeting with Armin Hamilton. I'm like, yeah, I'm just trying to finesse it where I can like, talk about my business in a way that's like, whatever. She's like, oh, well, you can't. She was like, well, you can't be finessing people and we're just approachable. I don't know why you. And I was like, what?
This ain't what I expected.
I was like, that's not what I expected. That's not even where I was coming from. Like, I was like, oh my God. So I was like, well, I guess that won't be any help. So she just shut me down and was kind of, crazy, acting kind of crazy to me. And I stayed in my little lane. I was like, all right, I'm not going to say nothing to this lady. Because you never know, paths might cross again.
Back again. You might have to come back again, yeah.
Exactly. So I didn't say nothing. I was just like,
yeah.
All right. And I was just like, well, it's a one-on-one. She's like, oh, you paid for it? And I was like, yeah, I paid. Okay. All right. I see where this conversation. So I just was just I just had a feeling it was going to work out. So we had to call. I told her about Afrospace. Her eyes lit up. She was just like, it turned into a work session, and I'm malleable. Like, she's like, oh, well, you should do this, that. Like, I could see, she's like, I could already see it like this, and this. And she's like, what you need to do is she was like, have you done financial projections? I was like, no. She's like, you need to add that to your pitch deck, do some financial projections and email it to me. And I was like, okay.
Email. Ooh.
Email. You give me your email address. I got your personal Gmail.
Yeah, at that point, we know each other. I got your email, yeah.
We're damn near related.
We're in cahoots.
Like, we are in cahoots.
What's up, sis? Yeah. Don't give me the email now.
Sister,
it's over.
My friend, yes.
Yeah.
So that happened, and then don't give me listen.
You better not.
Listen, I was emailing that ass. I'm sorry.
No, you good. Hey, I don't blame you, yo. If you give me that email, you better believe I am gonna follow up.
Okay,
yeah.
I am with.
So that's one big thing for the audience. If you get that level, you need to follow through.
And then, so what I did, so I was like, boom, that night, I don't know, I think I was up to like 7 a.m. I was like, I'm getting her this tomorrow.
It would have been perfect.
So I did that, and it was beautiful, chef's kiss. So I sent it to her, and then she was just like, oh, like, thank you, And then I think she sent me an email. She was like, hey, I've been working with this group, Fund Black Founders. It's like a new crowdfunding site. Yeah. And she was like, would you raise on this? Would you check it out and let me know if you would raise on this platform? And I checked it out. But of course I did like a whole bulleted. I went through the whole, I did UX, like, did a UX review. I literally did. Cause I was just like, and that's another thing with architecture, like that's the original user experience. So it's like crossover. That's a lot of architects go towards that now. And product management, cause the project management side of it.
Yeah.
Yes. So I did that for her. I gave her cliff notes. Okay.
Yeah.
She had the note. So then we just kept on back and forth, emails here and there. And eventually I think it was crazy because, mind you, all this time I'm applying for jobs, right? I didn't apply for unemployment, nothing like that. So my money is skinny. So like, I'm like, oh my God, I don't even know how I'm going to pay. I'm stressed, bro. I didn't even know how I was going to pay the rest of my rent. My lease wasn't up yet. So anyway, what was I gonna say? So I hit her up.
Yeah.
And then
So
I got to. I'm getting excited. I don't even know what
no. I'm loving this. I'm loving it.
Blocked
So after
out.
you talked to her, she told you to email her the financial projections.
Oh, yes.
And whatnot. Did she give you any feedback?
I don't remember. I don't know. It's been 2 years now. I feel like she was just like, I don't remember. I really don't. I'm sure she did, but it wasn't like, I know it wasn't like super in depth.
All the way in depth.
But I will say another.
But you got to that step.
That's
the main point.
And hitting up everybody I know. Oh, Jeffrey's a CPA. Let me hit up. You know what I'm saying?
Did that build your confidence just by getting the email and being 100%. Able to reach out to her and
the fact that we
pull this together?
And she cared.
And you realized that she was no different than the people that you probably had hesitated to reach out to.
Yeah, but you know what prepared me for that too? What? Being in Noma, because you talking about Gabrielle Bullock. I met Gabrielle Bullock when I was fresh out of school, and I ended up with a conversation with her, Phil Freelon, RIP, which was a prominent black architect based here in North Carolina, and Dina Griffin, who is in charge of doing the Obama Library, and it's me in my little wine glass. I'm like, and but it puts you in like, it's like a black organization, so it's like I don't know, like when you go back to your firm and your project director is acting stank, you're like, I already talked to the president of diversity and inclusion. Like, don't even come for me.
Yeah. So like from that conversations, you got a little it was a jump. It was a confidence boost that you needed just within your life.
And she emailed me. That's what I was going to. She said, the confidence, and it wasn't, now I can say it's not that much, which is wild to me because at the time, like,
it seemed more now.
It seemed like, so, I mean, it was just such a vote of confidence to just even have this relationship building. But then she was like, I want to personally, like as an angel, invest $5,000. In that same, like maybe a month after we first started chatting. And I'm like, this ain't just $5,000. This is Arlen Hamilton's $5,000. Like, I'm like, yo, this is crazy. So mind you, she just said she wanted to. She just put that in the atmosphere. So now 6 months pass, and I'm like, all right, I've been developing the business. I can't land. I just went, you got to allow time for yourself to figure stuff out too. Because I was coming from the perspective that I wanted to create a REIT, like, which is a real estate, a real estate investment. Yeah, exactly, REIT. And I was like, oh, if I do it this way, then community can invest in it. And like, I was trying to build it in all the like wildest ways it could go. And then I was like, okay, REITs for different, like the regulations with the SEC. So then you could do it in this way as a, what was it called? A syndicate. And like, I was going through all that. So, but it's details. But then ultimately I ended up renting this place, right? So it wasn't the time, but when the dream is so still far out, you just dream big, and that's okay, because you don't never know when that information is gonna come back. I was a student. That was the biggest. I say I got my degree from YouTube University.
You put your 1,000. Rick Ross does his things where I say I put my 1,000 hours in before I jump in, and like you got to put your 1,000 hours in to know what you're jumping into. And then when you jump in, you know, like, okay, if I face this, I can do this. If I do this, I can maybe pivot here. So did you get the 5,000?
So no, I didn't. So 6 months passed. That's all I've been doing was more research and stuff. I still haven't popped up. I still haven't got the space. And I'm like, what do I have to show? Now I go to her website, and now that opportunity to talk one-on-one is gone. So I'm like, I got to act like, I got to tell her, you owe me another meeting. How am I going to do this? I was so scared. I was like, oh my God. When I tell you got to tap into some authority that you didn't even know you had.
That's some real authority, but you got to do what you got to do.
You got to do what you got to do. If I didn't do that, I would not have the investment I have right now. So I was just like, to her secretary, I was like, hi, I'm ready to schedule our 2-2, like our 2 out of 2 one-on-one, like with the code. And like just a simple little sentence, like a little techie type sentence. And she was just like, okay, I'll get you on the calendar for how does this sound? It was like literally the day before Thanksgiving 2020. I was like, all right. So I get on the phone with her. The first thing she says is like, hey, I know I said I was going to invest $5,000, but we actually invested in a company that's very similar to yours. I was like, ooh, like my gut. I was like,
God, where's this about
Lord,
to go? This
what
is rough.
happened?
Yeah.
It was rough. So I was like, okay. I was like, all right. So I was like, which one? And she was like, it's called like something roots, and they do like, I was like, oh, are you talking about press roots? Because I made sure to know who my competition is. You gotta know your. So on the spot, I differentiated what my company does versus theirs.
What they did.
Press Roots is like I actually got my hair blown out there when I was in Dallas. They're dope.
Yeah.
So Press Roots is a black-owned blow bar. It's like blow bar for black girls. So they do like blowout silk presses.
A snippet of them. I don't know.
They're dope. So they're also in the same investor package as me. And I met when I got my blowout. I met the founder because she was outside chatting. I was like, "Are you?"
Yeah.
So I know her name start with P. It's not coming to me right now, but neither here nor there. So I differentiated. And I just showed her, I shared my screen with her. I showed her my Trello, my Airtable, my workflow, all my little background of how I've been planning and building this company, because that's all I've had.
Yeah.
That's all I've been doing. And she was just like, well, here's what I'm going to do. How would you like this? If we invest with our flex fund through Backstage Capital, $25,000. And I was like,
you could have jumped out of the building.
And I was so stoic. I was just like, oh, okay. I was like, oh, that
would be awesome.
Yeah, it sounds like a great idea. And she was just smiling like, because she knew it was like, as soon as I got off that phone, I was running laps, okay?
Would have went crazy.
Crying, calling friends, praising God, like getting on my knee. I was just like, it was like a game-changing moment.
Yeah. And from that point, she invested?
Like that was the conversation, was the end of November, and I got the check in January. Mind you, no credit check.
Yeah.
No background check.
She just like, I love your idea, what you got going on.
Get it. She was like, go get it.
And okay. Fast forward, you receive these funds, things start becoming more and more real. Yeah. Do you apply to any other programs to kind of help you even more with this journey, just learning more about how to found? Because you said you wanted this to be a startup. Like, did you start using that to help you kind of propel to another level? Mm-hmm.
Yep. I applied to, because I attended the NC Idea conference and like networked with some people through there.
How about that? North Carolina Idea conference,
Yeah.
I'll be there on Monday. North Carolina Idea, they got a webinar.
Oh, this was, okay, so they always throwing stuff, right?
Yeah, it's one Monday.
I went to theirs, it was back in 2021, and I just connected with a bunch, they had like office hours with the sponsors, and one was Riot, which is the Internet of Things, they did the Accelerator, so I applied, I got in. I applied to Founders Gym, I got in, and I applied to BoostPad here in Charlotte, and I got in, and that was before I even moved here.
Got it. And from there, you went through these programs that taught you how to maybe pitch your business, create your business, sustain it, and these things. And now you're able to a point where you feel like you're at a launch pad, would you say? Or you're at a point where you feel very strong about your business profile and how you can promote it
each
to the
one
world?
is different. Each one is like Riot was more about like the business, what you're trying to. It's like teaching you about KPIs and like it was a key product indicator or key performance indicators and all these other concepts like that to just kind of like get your money, get your business profitable, I would say, or like at least ready to be invested. And Founders Gym was more about like creating your pitch deck and like creating knowing your value and and just kind of the finances of investing and things like that. Yeah. And then BoostPad was more about like kind of like business basics, I would say too.
That is dope though. You jumped into that's 3 different programs right there.
Yeah.
All have a bit of a different profile, but they all taught you, very important. What I'm hearing, they taught you some very important skills about business. Yeah. Like just the business of creating a startup and understanding what metrics and things you should be tracking to make sure that this thing comes to life.
Yeah. And it makes you feel like there's some structure, because like I was a full-time entrepreneur for the longest, for that whole time. From then, because I also then eventually got some unemployment that kept me a little afloat.
Hey,
and I got some that pandemic, so it kept me afloat.
Amen.
And then and then I applied for a grant for a need. There was a lot of like need grants.
Yeah.
So there was one for artists and architects and stuff for just a need-based grant. If you're just struggling through the pandemic for
Yeah.
minorities, I applied. I got that. It was like $5K.
Yeah.
So I just been hustling, like, and that's just my nature, my natural, what I'm used to, how I grew up. Like I just know how to do it, and I won't say I know how to do it. I've been like kind of forced to do it. So then now, being in a position, this is the most kind of like, I don't know why gnarly is the word that's coming to my head, but this is the most gnarly part.
Gnarly is a great word.
It's gnarly. It's hella gnarly.
Yeah.
So is that I'm choosing to put myself in a survival mode, which is wild because we spend our whole lives trying to get out of it. And it's
but that's a mode I think more of us should jump into. Definitely if we put the work in. If we put the work in and you feel as though you're passionate about something, I think we should chase those things. It's gonna be uncomfortable. What I've heard, you've been uncomfortable for a very long time. But you just kept going.
You just have to have the necessary, because I was in therapy, right? I was building my support system of friends and stuff like that, of my like non-traditional family is what I would call it, or like, like these friends and things like that help support. Of course, my family's a support too, but it's just like, it's different.
Yeah.
So you just have to have you need people. You can't, and people aren't a means to an end. Like the people are the end. Like the whole point is people. Like that's the whole point. You can't be motivated by the.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. All these programs have like really built you up. You already had it. You already had it, because I think that's the main thing. Like you don't get to this point by not already having it, but it built you up just from like an acumen perspective. Like you learned the acumen of this startup.
Your own, like you have equal parts the programs, if not more, outside of that, because those programs are only X amount of weeks or months. Versus the whole time while you're out, you got to act like you in one anyway. That's what I did. I felt like I was in college again.
Yeah.
The way as much as I learned
in it. Yeah. Like, you know what?
Articles, taking notes like I'm in school, like on how to do, like that is, I treat it like a student. Like I really jumped in.
So you still jumping.
Yeah.
Like what's that next phase where you think you're like, I'm in like this build phase, and then like there's a run phase. Like where do you think that run phase is going? Like you're building to where Afrospace is.
Yeah.
What do you think that run phase is? So you got a bit of capital.
Yeah.
You have it. You kind of know.
Well, not no more. Because that was 2021, the beginning.
That's real.
So mind you, I was living off of $25K to get this business started for almost 2 years.
Yeah.
And then I also raised on my own. I raised with some friends that helped me. I raised another 15K on a crowdfund.
Okay. What platform you use?
I use Give Butter.
Give Butter? Okay.
Because you could use Venmo and like it was easier to pay
convenient.
Apple Pay and stuff. So I used that one, which I don't know if I did it. You gotta, because actually my investment that she gave me originally was supposed to just be to build the crowdfund, and my broke ass was like, I am not spending $25,000, and maybe take money to spend money, but I just did not have that mindset at the time. I was like, this $25,000 is about to build me into this, but it's for real, because if I didn't get that, I would not be here to do Afrospace, because I needed that time to work on it 100% of my time. And I'm not, in a relationship where I could where you like bounce, you lean on somebody. Like I'm providing for myself out here since I was young, 17 years old, you know what I mean? So it's like, I had to make it work.
Yeah. And so what's the next frontier you think for Afrospace? What's that next level? Because I mean, when you think about businesses transforming and evolving, it ain't just this level of funding. They're still reaching. They're still growing. It's still
I don't know. I don't know how to word this, but like it's interesting. The investment space, or investment capital is an interesting game, because you're selling a dream in a way, and you do have like traction that you demonstrate, but a lot of the times I think you can just sell that dream and get these millions, but your business doesn't really ever become profitable unless you're and I get it, but I don't know if that's how I want to operate.
But you know what though? You're not the only one. There's been tons of founders and entrepreneurs who never became profitable, and they've been selling people on their dream until it turns.
Yeah.
So I feel as though so many times us as Black people, we haven't gotten those opportunities to just keep, getting those levers of funding and whatnot. There's a lot of people. I mean, there's some large. I don't even know if Uber's.
And that's the thing. Like my investment is technically venture. I actually got that with a single member LLC, which is unheard of. Usually your venture, you already got to be a Delaware corp if you're going to get venture capital.
Oh, multiple employees and things like that.
Yeah, or just even your own, even if it's just you, just your structure and you got a board or whatever.
Yeah.
So, and granted, my film, what am I talking about? My 25K is hogwash.
Yeah.
In the venture world, that's nothing. It's a micro investment. That's how I kind of say.
Absolutely.
I mean, to me, it's everything, but to them, that's not a lot because my venture.
Crazy amounts.
They're like account managers, so they're handling the money of the wealthy that they want to play with their money a little bit. Mm-hmm. So they're investing in this and this, hopefully to find the next Facebook, right? So or just like they're just kind of diversifying in this way because they want to be a little exciting with their money. They got the money to be exciting with. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like that 25K is like, that's nothing to them. Not to say I definitely want to give a X, 10X ROI, whatever. Yeah. But we're not there yet. So I'm at the kind of point where I don't know if we're gonna continue on the venture route because you have, your pre-seed, you have your seed, Series A, B, whatever. Yeah. So technically, I guess we could call that. I would even still kind of call it a family friend round. Yeah. Because 25 could be. It's pre-seed. Not. It could be even before pre-seed. Could still be like 100K. Yeah. 200K is pre-seed. So I don't know where I'm at right now. Like, are we entering into a pre-seed? But the whole appeal is that when you go to the next, so like I got 25K. It was on a safe, which is a simple agreement for future equity. So it's not an instrument of debt. I don't pay that back in that way. And she valued my company at $1 million value cap. So the next round, it's like they're going to increase the value cap, hopefully. But then that would like change what her investment would be. So if it's so basically how I'm looking at it is 25K, $1 million value cap. So that would be eventually owning 2.5% of the company. But because she got in early, if and when they revalue it, hers kind of, it increases. So I mean, I'm not afraid to dilute my company to an extent for us to be scalable and like, because my idea is to have this flagship, be the example, and then to broaden out. But getting into it now is going on like 2 years of real, like since I got the investments going on 2 years, right? So it just takes a lot more. I mean, I really want to build my team. I really want to, it's right now I'm kind of like a solopreneur. I have different people who I consult with here and there, but while your business isn't
directly bringing in revenue on a day-to-day.
There was a venture capital expert. She's like a higher up at a firm, and she was just like 90% of the capital that you get from venture is for employee. It's like for payroll. I was like, yo, that like blew my mind. Yeah.
It's like payroll. Then you gotta be able to bring in revenue and be profitable. And that's a whole nother step. So where you are now, you've learned a lot. Like, and I'll be honest, like a lot of entrepreneurs don't even know that level of investment and we want them to know. That's why I think it's important that you're telling your story.
I think differentiating yourself. Is your goal to have a business, like a small business, or is your goal to be a scalable business? And if it's to be a scalable business, how are you innovating? What is it? What problem are you solving? Like starting asking those questions. And I think naturally, if you literally just look up like how to do a pitch deck or like pitch deck template, it'll start you there.
What can maybe people expect from Afrospace in the next 6 to 9 months?
Oh man, well we're gonna launch this spring and offer membership I'm trying to get some more funding. I don't know which avenue that's coming in. We gonna get it.
Yeah, we're gonna get it.
Period.
What did you just told this story and how you've been grinding? The funding's coming.
That's what I was gonna say too, right, real quick though, because a really big benefit that I didn't anticipate by getting this is I'm also in this group of portfolio, like they're called backstage headliners. So all the portfolio companies. So me and Joe will be on the calls now together.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I'll be like, oh, I see you on the call. He'd be like, yo, like that was funny.
That's what's up.
It was cool. So like, and that's the thing, like you don't, like I was talking about earlier, like you don't, no sweat on it, because life is life. You don't know what people got going on. You don't got time to waste to worry about it anyway.
Yeah, and even outside of real capital, your social capital.
Yeah, so I connected with
at a huge level. So
I connected with a lady.
You can connect with a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. And that's exactly it.
Yeah,
that's exactly it.
And you connected with.
So she's the founder of a company called Hello Alice, and they put out a bunch of grants.
I heard of that.
You probably they have a lot of grant opportunities. So she's in the backstage portfolio. I connected with her literally like I'm driving to Afrospace I don't know if we were doing something. So I just literally came up with a new description on how to, it's like some of the soft skills are important too. Building your confidence is so big. Yeah. Like I'm still working on it, but I know it's turning.
Yeah.
So like I had reached a personal milestone of how I talked about Afrospace, and like I tested it on her and I said it, and I said it in like 5 seconds, and she was just like, wow. Like I was like, oh my God, I got it to the point where she just got it as soon as I said it, instead of me having to ramble and meander for 30 minutes.
And so you've been like iterating just on what that story is that's going to stick with people to allow for you to be able to, one, let them see your vision, but also hopefully that vision turns into you giving me some funding.
Yeah. And she said she literally was just like, oh, I already got 2 investors in mind. You need to reach out to them. She's like, matter of fact, I'll do, whenever you're ready, I'll do a warm introduction. Us having a warm introduction, that's so rare. You know, it is so important, which I didn't realize was so central to getting funding. It's like having that warm connection that kind of like gets you into the door.
People gotta like you before anything. And I know that about anything. Like I just think being in the space that I'm in, recruiting in like diversity spaces, that like you gotta like someone before, you know, I give you any money or whatnot for warm introductions, often it's an email. Like they just gotta really see that you're passionate about something. They gotta like you. So I think you made that impression on a lot of people. And they're seeing it.
And I'm trying to do it in an authentic way too. I'm not just selling a dream. Like this is literally like, I got a plan. This is what I want. I'm not building the type of company that is predatory on other people and plaguing on their insecurities. Like, oh, I don't have this thing. So it looks like you have the answer to it. So I'm going to pay you this money so that you can solve this for me. Like, unless there's genuine companies that can fix your this, fix your that. But you know, I really have my heart in this in a genuine way.
And you're creating a new space of work. I truly believe that it's the area where we believe in productivity and mental health and wellness at the same space. And it's not a push and a pull. It's like I can be productive and meet new people who are interested in what I do, and I'm interested in what they do, but I also can be myself and be vulnerable and be able to just make that, you know, that barter type of relationship with people.
And it ain't a clique. It ain't a who's who. Yeah. It's not like a, you know, whatever. It's like, it's a membership space, but I want you to really be able to be yourself, like your full self. It don't matter, like, you know, it don't matter what you got on. It don't matter how much money you got. Like, I just want you to be able to be yourself.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's super awesome. I'm glad while I'm sitting here behind Solange and I'm like in this space, and I wish everyone could see the full entire space. And you're going to be launching like fully this spring with a number of events.
And we're doing little pre-launch events coming up. Got Vintage Vinyl Fridays, one Friday a month for free. It's a free event. Spinning vintage records. And this next one. So the first one was like, you just gotta try it, which is like, that was a learning lesson for me too, because it's like, or lessons learned for me, because you just gotta, if you make it, it's a thing. It don't matter how many people come out. Like we had like 20 people, but half was our friends, you know, so it might have, maybe even more than half. So maybe it was like 5 unique people that I didn't know. I knew everybody else there, but it was a good vibe. And like, I don't know, like the next one's gonna be different. Now we have Archive and Jam Pack Records coming to this next one. So to me, it's always quality first.
Just the evolution of,
you don't want the wrong people in your, like the right people will be navigated here.
Got you. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I'm glad to be here. Well, thank you for welcoming me into your space. I think this has been an awesome conversation. One, I've learned so much, like just from me wanting to be a budding entrepreneur and creating something like this. The number one thing I learned is you can't quit. You got to go against the grain. You have to sometimes step outside of your comfort zone to make sure you can get in front of people. Sometimes you got to go on that payment plan and to get and talk to people that will help you, take your business to the next level. What I heard from all of this is that Afrospace is going to be absolutely just fine for the future, and there are going to be a number of other people that continue to invest in Afrospace. They're going to see the vision through you, but they're going to invest in Afrospace because they really know that it's going to change the way that we work. It's going to change the way that we empower people of color, specifically women. I think this is a really, really dope space for women who want to have that release. But also, I think it'll also help the other way. I think it's going to help Black men be able to provide this as an opportunity to their counterparts, to their friends, to say, hey, I think you should check this out because your workspace doesn't provide that. And I think that's the most important piece, that we can tell that story of what Afrospace can do for you as a space that you can be yourself and you can be vulnerable. Thank you again. We're gonna keep supporting it. And if you need any support, if I can pass you to anybody I know, let's just keep doing it. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate that.